Hey everybody! Welcome to the Transmortal Podcast. This week I'm here joined with my good friend Logan, also known as ElBee. He's dumb.
Yep, this is true.
He might be gay.
I'm definitely gay. That's just a coming out right there. I haven't even told my parents yet, so.
It's okay. We're all gay here. So, today we're going to talk about something that we've been really having lots of fun with lately, and that's retro games specifically. I have a couple things written down. I know Logan here has a couple things written down.
Yes, I do.
And we're just going to talk, dive into the nature of what makes them cool, what makes them different than what we've got now. So, first of all,
it's rewind time.
Yeah, it's time to take a trip back to the old yesterday.
18
Oh.
Okay, you keep going.
So to put things in a little frame of reference, so just so we can get a feel for retro and how old we are in the timeline of video games, I have an interesting question for you, Logan. What was the first game that you can remember that you knew the game was coming out on a certain day and counted down the release date and sought out to get that game day one?
I don't know. I played SNES with my sister a long time. I think that probably happened around. I don't remember looking forward to release dates for a long time. I did a lot of similar to Blockbuster searching, where I just went around the game store and just I was like, oh, this cover looks cool, and bought it, and it ended up even if it was stupid, I loved it as a kid, or playing it with my next door neighbor who I was best friends with at the time. We would just split screen everything.
Right.
So the first games I remember was probably early on Call of Duties, maybe World at War was probably the first one.
Okay.
I don't know. That was never really a big part of my childhood, was looking forward to games coming out. It was more so looking forward to taking a trip to GameStop and looking at the pre-owned games and kind of just searching those bins for the 2 for $2, or you buy 2 get 2 free or whatever. That kind of stuff is what I did.
Cool. So it was more of a hunt of who knows what we'll find this time, as opposed to I know this game is coming out.
Yeah. As a kid, that's always
for sure.
I don't even remember looking forward to a game as a kid. I just look forward to I knew the game was out already because I saw it in GameStop, and I was like, oh, I got to get this when I go back next time, or I got to save up for it, or my birthday, whatever.
Right. I think the first one I ever did it with was Lego Star Wars.
I do remember getting that game, and I got that. That was one of the first games I got new. I got pre-owned games a lot as a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was one of the first games I got brand new, but I didn't get it until the complete saga came out. So.
Right. Yeah, I remember. I don't know. I had some game, and I looked in the back of the instruction manual, and there was an ad for Lego Star Wars, and I was like, oh! And
I used to get those Game Informers or the Lego magazines too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I might have seen it in one of those as well.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have games growing up. I just played them over at Danny's, and I would play them at friends' houses and stuff. So I didn't pay too much attention to games until GameCube and GBA came out. But the first gaming console I ever personally had was a PSP. So a lot of it was So a lot of it was pretty late.
Okay.
I think I was 14 when I got my first gaming console.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I don't even remember when the PS2 came out. That was my first, my own first console, but my sister owned the Super Nintendo. So, I played that constantly. I played Super Mario World like crazy, but I didn't own that one. That one wasn't mine. I just played Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country on repeat over and over and over until I got my PS2.
For sure.
Or I might have got, I don't remember I think that was my first console. That or a GameCube.
Yeah, I remember playing GameCube and stuff over at friends' house so much. So there's a lot of those games are super nostalgic to me just because of that. And I remember I would play.
I think I got a GameCube because of Danny.
Yeah.
And by the way, Danny is Carl's cousin, Transmortal, obviously, and he's just a friend of mine. So I used to be over his house all the time as a kid.
I remember when Danny got his GameCube. I was there. So we
Really?
We used to go yard sailing a lot. and we literally found a GameCube with Mario Party 4 at a garage sale, and it was like
Bruh.
$30 or $40 for the whole set, and they got it, and we were like, me and Danny were like so stoked, and we got back to my grandpa's house, and we couldn't save the game because they didn't give us a memory card, and we were like,
that's unfortunate.
it was a bruh moment.
The struggle of consoles back in the day.
Indeed, but we still played. I was like, can we just play and not save? So we played a bit.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, okay, so I thought I didn't play my GameCube a lot because I don't have a lot of memories in it, but I'm sure we'll get into, like, I know you mentioned recently we've been into retro games a lot, but I was doing some searching for getting Simpsons Hit and Run for my PS2, and I was like, I don't remember if I played this on PS2 or GameCube, and then I looked it up, and it turns out I ended up playing it on my GameCube. I'm almost 100% sure now, so like that was one of the biggest games as a kid that I played, and it was for GameCube, so I think I probably played GameCube more than I thought, and like I definitely like the GameCube more than the PS2. The PS2 just has more games. So
right.
One has the bigger library, one's the better console.
For sure. There's something to me about the GameCube's controller. Like
everything
I've
about
never
it. It's just
loved...
a tiny box. It's just so, it's like, and it has the handle on it. Like,
right.
It's just so like, oh, I'm going over to my friend's house. You just pick that thing up, grab your cables, and that's it.
That's the thing. My friend growing up, not only did he have the like Game Boy Advanced thing, the attachment where you could play Game Boy Advance games on it, but
cool
he had the you could buy a little TV that attached to the top of it and plugged into the back AV port and then folded up, and he had that, so we would play it in his car. And man, most of my nostalgic GameCube games I remember from that. So like the big ones, of course, they're kind of weird. So Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which I'm playing right now on my channel, and what was the other one? We would play the Lord of the Rings Return of the King game.
Never played
on the
that.
GameCube. It's so fun. Like, and it's co-op, so honestly, we should get together and play it. It's super fun. I have it. Like, that was one of the first games. Yeah, that was one of the first games I got when I got my GameCube because it's so nostalgic. But a couple of the other ones are Luigi's Mansion, because I remember Danny and I used to play that. Yeah. Kirby Air Ride, of course.
Yep, I don't remember owning a lot of GameCube games. I can only specifically remember Pokemon XD, Kirby Air Ride I know I owned, and now I'm assuming Simpsons Hit and Run. I had to have more, but I just don't. Like, I never owned any of the Mario games for my GameCube for whatever reason. Like, Danny was where I played. Like, all the GameCube I played was probably at Danny's house. This whole episode's just about Danny now, so. But he's where I played most of my GameCube games that I can remember, like Double Dash, and then Mario Golf I used to play a lot, and then he had Kirby Air Ride and we played that there too. And he had all the Nintendo games that I played as a kid.
The other one me and my friends used to play that I loved, it's the Star Wars Rogue Squadron game.
I know, I never played that one. I didn't play a lot of the only Star Wars game I played was Revenge of the Sith, and I think Force Unleashed. I don't remember if it was Wii or GameCube that I played it on.
Oh man, the Rogue Squadron game, it's like not that great. I mean, the flying missions are great, but they have ground missions and they're really stupid. Yeah. But man, we just used to play the multiplayer, and we would just like crash into like fuel tanks and blow things up and just like laugh our heads off. It was so fun.
That's another thing that like I miss about retro games, or just not. I mean, I guess it's considered retro. I just don't like admitting I'm old. But is like the split screen.
Right, yeah.
I haven't played split screen in God knows how long.
Yeah, I probably haven't played split screen since like one of the Halos. Like probably Halo 4.
Been a like I don't know. I'd like Revenge of the Sith and Star Wars made me think of it because like my next door neighbor I was like super good friends with for my entire childhood, and he only recently like went to college, you know, a year or two ago. So, but like he would come over and like he didn't even like Star Wars, but we still played Revenge of the Sith lightsaber duels like 24/7 on Revenge of the Sith, and then we had multiplayer like Lego racers and stuff. Like it was so much easier to like the experience of split screen. Like I mean, online's great because now you can play with your friends that don't live near you. So
Right.
that's obviously fantastic. You get to stay in touch and everything when you get older, but that feeling of split screening just, I don't know. It's just a nostalgic thing, but I do miss being in the same room and playing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I just remembered like a couple weeks ago, I got to hang out with some family, and Danny's little brother Josh, my other cousin. We played split screen Minecraft a lot in the evenings. It was really
So
fun.
you get Minecraft
So, like-
and split screen, so it's like double nostalgia.
Exactly. And like, I just remember thinking the whole time, like,
Why can't it always
you just
be like
don't
this?
get this kind of, you don't get this kind of experience, which actually, pretty interestingly enough, brings me to another note I had. What do you think, like, pros and cons, basically? Games back then were just trying to accomplish something different than games are trying to accomplish right now. So, like, what are some of the pros and cons you think of, like, obviously the approach to games back then, and like some pros and cons to what they're trying to do right now?
So-
like you just said, one of the pros is that, you know, over the internet, you can keep in touch with friends and still
Yeah.
play. You don't have to be in the same room. That's a
But
pro
you lose
for
that
sure.
connection that you have in the
Yep.
same room. Okay. So just pros and
Exactly.
cons of basically just old games and new games? I mean, I know you meant the approach, but I know what you mean.
Right. And like, it doesn't have to be just the multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this is one thing I've noticed, like, clear, like, side-by-side comparison. Battlefront 2 for, like, original Xbox and PS2 compared to the EA Battlefront 2 that came out, like, a year or two ago.
Oh, yeah.
They're just completely different games,
Yeah.
and I like them both. I know, like, Battlefront 2 didn't do the best critically, but Battlefront 2 back in like 2005 when they made it is clearly a game they made for you to play hours, not using the internet, together, split screen or by yourself, and then later added in an online component.
Yeah.
Whereas the new Battlefront is clearly a game they designed for hours and hours and
That's gonna be
hours
a
of
big part of
online
my answer.
gameplay. Yeah, online gameplay, and then they just shoved in some single.
Yo. So, okay. So, I don't know how many pros and cons I can come up with, but I do know the biggest thing is a stem off of what you just said, because back in the day, just say I'll choose a game at random that I liked. Simpsons Hit and Run is one of them. I'll just talk about that one. Screw it. So that one was one of my favorite games as a kid. It's a classic little gem for me. Like that's another thing about the pros of old games is like you just had hidden gems here and there that some people still don't know about, some people do know about. Like I just felt like
Like the Lord of the Rings
exactly,
Return of
and
the
you
King.
love that game. So the big thing is like the approach to newer games that I have a really big issue with. It most of the time, like you have games like Red Dead and God of War that are like still have that, you know, that feeling, but nowadays people care about online a lot. So the biggest, like my biggest con about approach to newer games is they have to appeal to everyone to satisfy, like, you know, making their money, and they're not going to make money. Like making money off of story games is so much harder, and it has to be like just a straight up story game. That's it. Like that's not what's selling right now. Like right now, like it's, you know, Fortnite, as much as we make fun of it, is huge, and multiplayer games are like the thing. So like you said with like Battlefront 2, it's like it's an online game with some story shoved into it. And the thing about that makes that bad is one, like either online or story gets 80% and the other gets 20. Like they can't do one or the other, or they can't like get 100 into both. So one suffers. So no game I feel like is ever really fully done now. I always feel like games come out now with a ton of bugs, and like even as a kid, like PS2 games that had a ton of bugs, like it was just character.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being a huge focus of what happens in today's gaming industry. And knowing a couple people, not only who are game developers, but I know some software developers. I know it's a huge pressure from the publishers for the most part, which really sucks, because like publishers and people, you know, that are making a lot of the money off of it, they just think, well, if we get it out sooner, we'll make more money or blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And don't realize how long it actually takes to develop and put time into these things. So they have no idea of like what a project deadline really should be. And like,
well, and like with free to play being so huge, I just feel like it's everybody's goal to get things out as fast as they can.
yeah, they're like, we could
as
just
opposed
put it
to,
out
like,
in early
as
access.
quality as they can. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we could just slap an early access thing on it and work on it as we go. And
early access started out kind of like as a cool thing. I was like, oh, that's a cool. Like betas are sick. I think that's cool. Like,
yeah,
you
for
have a
sure.
multiplayer game and you're like, all right, here's beta to test it out. After we worked super hard on this for 2 years, we'll just knock out the kinks before releasing it so we don't have servers go down 9,000 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of the times now, early access, in quotes, is just a way to get their unfinished game out so they can make money off of it or whatever.
Yeah, and then in some instances, you have games like Starforge. I don't know if you have ever
I've never played it. I know what it is, I just haven't played it.
Oh, man. That was one Danny and I got super excited about and both bought on Steam, early access, excited for what the game could become. And then after about a year, they just gave up on development and never finished it. And it's still like
sick.
Literally still in like early alpha. Like, and it'll never be worked on again. And that's $25 down the drain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in the grand scheme of life, like, it's not that big a deal, but that sucks. Like, that was my money. That was Danny's money.
Well, and it's not even like just money. It's like time investment that you wanted to put into it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's just like if you paid money to go see a really good movie you're excited for and it ends up sucking and you're like, well, I just wasted, you know, a certain amount of time in my life. Like, you feel that way. Like, you buy a game for what they offer and you expect to get that and you don't. You're like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. I don't like, there's obviously great games now, like Red Dead 2 was a highlight. That's still like, that's easily like top 10 games now. And I didn't play enough God of War to have an opinion, but you know, games like that are still coming out, which is great and people enjoy them. But I just feel like back then with PS2 games, like no matter how buggy they were or silly they were, like you still enjoyed it because they were finished.
Yeah.
Like, it's like back then, like, even if it has bugs and stuff, like, it had character, I guess.
Exactly.
Because you would play, like, a really old game, you grab your PS2, GameCube, whatever, you sit down, you play it with your friends, you have a bug happen, you laugh about it, and you don't expect, oh, the developer should fix this for me.
And to be fair, like, the same charm happens for, like, certain games, like, you know, like Skyrim. Like, there's not a Bethesda game that isn't that buggy, but when you have these, like, promised polished online experiences, like just think of Black Ops 4, like how rough that was for the first month. Like,
and now like people get mad if the game doesn't get updated once a week. Like I feel like a huge problem is obviously like microtransactions and like, you know, companies like Activision and stuff, but it's also a huge thing if like consumers got spoiled.
Yeah, for sure.
So it makes it even harder on everyone when everybody's like, I don't like this game because I don't get my weekly content updates. Like, games used to just come out and
that was
be
it.
Finished and that's it. The game's out. Like, you like it or you don't.
Back to the Battlefront, like I remember like Star Wars Battlefront came out on original Xbox and it was great for years. It still is great, like base game. And everybody was excited because they happened to release like on a disc you could download and get like Clone Wars expansions.
Yeah.
Like back then, like DLC was like a treat. You know, you're like, I can't believe they added more to the game. Like, and
now your game gets 1 star if like you don't have 478 DLC packs.
Yeah, and like
games barely last a year, I feel like now.
And like Halo did the same thing. I actually have like a disc of the Halo 2 maps you can download.
Yeah.
Like
that's it's the same thing with music. Like, I'm not obviously not going to talk about music, but it's the same thing. Like, I love streaming and I love, you know, being able to download games now. Like, it makes it easier, but you lose the touch, the magical feeling you get of like going to the store and buying a new game. It's such a different feeling to like go out to GameStop, use your hard-earned money, buy the game, come back and put that disc into your console or whatever, your PC. And now you're just like, well, Red Dead 2 looks cool, download, and that's it. It's not as fun.
Yeah, I know we talked about this off the podcast, but that's like the main difference, like we were talking about. Like console gaming, because it just has like a branded sleek box and a branded controller and accessories, it has so much more personality and charm than just building your PC with a mouse and keyboard and downloading a game off Steam.
Yeah.
Like, even though the performance obviously runs better, it'll look better.
Yeah, PC is like always gonna win in looks and performance. Always. Like, it's always gonna be over 2 years ahead of its time, because not ahead of its time, but ahead of consoles, because there's always new parts coming out, and the parts for PC is always better than console, no matter what you do about it. But it doesn't have the personality, because it's just different parts that you put together. You can be happy about it and proud of it, but it's still not.
And even the games, like
relaxing at home feeling you have of a console.
Yeah, and they don't even make hard copies of games really anymore. Like,
yeah, I don't remember the last time I saw a hard copy for PC. There's no way people would buy that.
The hard copies we get at GameStop are literally a DVD case, and you open it up, and it's a piece of cardboard in the shape of a CD with the download key.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Like, now, if you go to the store to buy your PC game, you might as well just get like a Steam gift card or something.
Yeah, exactly. The last one I got that had an actual disc was I got the Doom Collector's Edition for PC, and to be fair, it was an actual disc, but I popped it into my disc drive, and it was like, all right, thanks for popping the Doom disc in. Now we're going to redirect you to Steam. Like,
yeah.
And it literally just redirected me to Steam, and I downloaded it off Steam.
And you're like, what was the point?
And now, like, I remember as a kid, I used to have this little, it was like a ridged CD holder thing on my desk, and then my monitor sat on top of that, and I had all my CDs lined up in there, and I would like take them in, and I would put them in the disc drive, and it was so excited, so I would like play Lego Island or like switch to Lego Racers. And
don't recall.
So fun.
I think I did the same thing with music, like CDs too,
right.
But like I remember like being so excited to get like a new CD case or something from like GameStop or like Walmart, and I would take all my PS2 games, get this super cool new CD case I got that's just filled with different sleeves inside, and I just put all my games in there instead of cases. I mean, I had the cases, but they were in like a box somewhere. And I just go sit down on my PS2, that'd be on my shelf, I'd pull out my little packet, and I just, flip through each CD like, all right, which game do I want to play right now? And, it was just so much different than like, let me cycle through my main menu to find it. That's the big thing, is like, it just older, well, consoles in general, I guess, not even just older, just have more character to them because there's more interaction with it.
Like, I love it's so like cartoony and stupid looking, but like the N64, just the ports of the controller to plug in, they're just so like chunky and weird looking.
Yeah,
you just like plug that in there. I don't know. There's such an experience about
they're
it.
just like a toy almost as a kid.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's just a big, like, I don't mind them getting sleeker and stuff. Like, I still like consoles these days, but it's still just, I don't know. They have character, as we've said. It's just a different thing.
It's probably the same kind of feel or mindset with vinyl over a CD. Like, a lot of people like to get a vinyl because the whole, like, putting it for a spin, all that. I'm sure it's
just the nostalgia, man. It sells. So having that, like, feeling of, like, even if you weren't alive when vinyls were a thing, people still love them. Just because it makes you think of, like, even if you weren't there for those old times, it still makes you think of old times. So
it makes you think of old times. It's I don't know how to word it. It's like a ritual of like, now we go through the process of like putting it 100%. Into the thing and like closing the tray and hitting the reset button or whatever.
Because like, for example, like. Okay, so this is a super small example, but like making coffee, like there's, you have a Keurig, for example. You just take your cake up, put it in, close it, press the button, and do whatever you want in the morning. It makes it easier, and that's fine. I have nothing against people that do that. But then like somebody like just say me and other people that just really enjoy like making their coffee, I use like a pour over or whatever. And I just like taking the time to add that extra step into it and just enjoy the process of it. And that's what vinyl is. It's like, it's way more tedious to get going and to stop and to fast forward, etc. But that's what makes it more full of character and make it a bit more of a ritual, because you get to be more interactive throughout the whole process of it.
And like the little flaws that can start up, like,
Yeah.
they're fun. Like, it's like, oh no, I gotta reset the GameCube, and you have to like hit the reset button or something.
Yep.
Or
like VHS tapes when you're just like, oh, gotta rewind.
Yeah.
And then like everything gets tangled and you have to like take it all out and fix it. And I don't know. It's much harder and it's much more tedious, but you know, it has just that little special feeling to it that it's hard to explain.
So obviously everything we've talked about definitely leans a lot on the side of like a little bias towards retro stuff, but
Sure.
what I don't know, what's something that like modern gaming is like nailing that like I'm glad we don't have to like go back away from, like,
Oh,
something moving forward?
yeah.
I
mean,
know.
okay, so obviously I don't mind. Okay, so I don't mind bad graphics. Obviously, I still played old games, but where they're going out with graphics now, like just a trailer for Cyberpunk and seeing, you know, Keanu
Yeah.
and it like looking just exactly like him is crazy. And I love and this is an answer anybody would get, is, you know, that graphics are getting better. But I think probably one of the biggest things is I feel like there's less story games, but the games that are story games are much more in depth than they used to be.
Yeah.
So, like, there might be less of them, but I feel like we've gotten better at storytelling in games that now, and games are becoming more prominent and, like, more not taken seriously, but accepted, I guess,
Yeah.
like being a gamer. So I
Sure.
just feel like the storytelling has gotten a lot more compelling in it. And, you know, I love older games, but the stories in them were usually, like, bizarre or just, you know, very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And not super crazy. It was mostly just about, you know, escaping and just having a good time with yourself or your friends. Like, it was
Right.
never like, I don't remember, like, as a kid, any story in any games I played as a kid.
As far as like
I don't
old
remember
games
any of
go,
them.
yeah, the only one I can think of before like 360 era that had like a story that would make people be like, whoa, would probably be like Half-Life or maybe the Silent Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I played Silent Hill, I probably would remember those a bit more.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it was very rare for a game to come out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
be, like,
But like everything else
game-changing
was like Crash or something. Like
Yeah,
just like, oh, it's
exactly.
all about the fun experience.
It took like PS3 and Xbox 360 to get to that era of when storytelling became a bit stronger.
For sure.
But probably the biggest thing would just be graphics, storytelling, and controllers.
Yes.
Except for like GameCube had a great controller, but like PS2, PS1 controllers sucked. They were
Yeah.
so uncomfortable. They hurt my thumbs all the time. And old Xbox controllers were giant.
Like the original
Like
one.
absurdly, yeah.
The one they call
Absurdly giant.
the Duke.
Yeah, that's the one. So, yeah, I those are probably the big three. What about yourself? Do you have anything that I didn't mention?
It's definitely along those lines. I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but I notice, I mean, of course, games are, I think they're striving to be better as opposed to like just hard. So, for instance, Devil May Cry is a great example. Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 are so hard just for the sake of being
That
hard.
is true.
To stretch
Yeah.
out the time just to be like, we're going to spitefully be hard so it takes you twice as long to beat
Sure.
it. But like 5, it's not very long, but it's such a blast because it's fair the whole time. And it's like,
And you don't get aggravated.
Exactly.
You just get to enjoy it.
exactly. And I feel like,
Yeah, I didn't think about that. PS2 games and like they were all pretty difficult.
I feel like games, I beat more games that I get now. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I can't recall a lot of games I beat as a kid.
right,
to be honest.
exactly. I remember Lego Star Wars, of course, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I noticed it when I beat Final Fantasy 15. Like most games that I've gotten for my PS4 that are story based, like I've beat.
Yeah. If I didn't beat it, I didn't like it.
And like as a kid, that was unheard of. I'm like, man, I finally beat a
Yeah.
game. Whoa! Like
The only games I can really think of is Lego Island 2. I know I beat because I remember the ending. Lego Racers, I know I beat because I was super competitive. I still am, but like I like forced myself to beat that game because the last guy, I was always like, I have to beat him in the last
Rocket
race.
Racer.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to
On
win.
his special
and I
stage.
did.
Yeah, I remember me and my sister. Like my sister, like was more competitive than me, and like
Yeah.
we would both play. And I would just see her like angrily playing Lego Racers at her desk.
Yep. So that's like one of the first games I like raged at.
Yeah.
So
And she was like, I finally beat Rocket Racer. I'm like, what? And so I'm like, well,
you did what?
I'm like, well, Heather beat Rocket Racer. Now I have to beat Rocket Racer.
I don't know. I just miss the simplicity. I mean, okay, that's also just being a kid
Yeah.
with the retro stuff. I gotta
For
remember
sure.
that like just because it's older doesn't mean it's better.
Of course.
Like if I like went back and did the same thing now, like with the mindset and age I am, I probably wouldn't be like, oh, retro games are so much better. Like nostalgia does
Yeah.
make me more biased.
I think there's a
So
really interesting example of that is, you know, Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie, like, everybody loves, and everybody was like, when will they make a Banjo-Kazooie 3? They'll never make a Banjo-Kazooie 3. And so the people who worked on Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2, they don't work for Rare anymore. And so they crowdfunded Yooka-Laylee, which is like a spiritual successor to...
yeah.
And like, everybody was like, oh, it just feels like an old game. It's like, that's what you wanted. Like, that's what you were asking for.
Like,
And
do you want the old game reinvented, or do you want the old game? Like,
yeah, exactly.
make up your mind.
And so I think that's a valid point. Like, if it would have been Banjo-Kazooie instead of Yooka-Laylee, I bet people would have loved it because nostalgia.
100%.
But because it's a new property that's just in the spirit
It
of
just
those
feels
old
like
things,
you're playing an old game that's
Exactly.
outdated. Like, like I love Simpsons Hit and Run, but if I never played it and I played it now, I'd probably be like, "What is this nonsense?"
That's. I feel like you'd feel the same way if you played the old like 2005 Star Wars Battlefront. It's like,
Oh yeah, I'm 100% sure. Like all of them look so silly from like
a
different
technical
perspective.
standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, that makes more sense. But I don't know. It's just I do miss. There's just a feeling you get, you know, going to the store and like getting games as opposed to, like we said, just downloading them.
Yeah,
I don't
for
know.
sure. I remember, like, of course, my love for movies comes from, like, just growing up, we would, like, almost weekly, like, me, my mom, and my sister would all go to, like, movie gallery and just be like, let's see what we can find. Let's watch some movies.
Yep,
And
did the same.
once I got a Wii, when I got a little older, we ended up...
We ended up. Okay,
okay,
I'm sorry.
I started branching into the game section to see what games I could rent for the Wii too, and
Oh
like,
man,
that was
I forgot
so
about
fun.
renting games.
yeah, exactly. And I just
that was kind of a short-lived period in my life, but God, was that fun!
well, also because that
I
was
think
like
it was for Wii for me as well.
well, that was right like tail end of movie gallery's lifespan before like they
It
shut
was
them all down.
Blockbuster, I think, where that happened with me. I think it was Blockbuster. It might have been another movie store. I don't remember. Ingles had that.
We had a
I
local
don't-
one.
Is Ingles like worldwide or no?
I have never heard of an Ingles before you've mentioned it, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ingles, for anyone wondering, is a grocery store. If you don't know what it is, it's a grocery store, and they used to have like a movie/game rental inside of the store. And there was one like literally like 8 minutes from my house, so I used to rent movies and games there all the time. So that was a really fun. That was like my favorite mix between like where we used to be and where we are now.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, like now you look online, you're like, this game looks cool because of the description on Steam. Click download, and then you buy, and that's it. But like back then, it was like you used to have to just go buy the game, commit to it, and come back. But then you got to go rent games. That was like the middle ground. Like you still had to go out and get it, but you weren't committed to keeping it and, you know, having to do that. And I remember renting a game, liking it, and then going to GameStop and buying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually I remember I had a Wii, and like that's where I first played Call of Duty. Like I rented the Modern Warfare, the first one, the edition where you put the like Wii remote in the zapper and like aim with it and actually shoot, and like that's the first time I ever played Call of Duty. And like to this day, like I love that game so much because
we
it's
rented
so fun.
Animal Crossing and then bought Animal Crossing.
I rented Animal Crossing, and it was when it's because I had played Call of Duty and played Halo at friend's house. I was like, this isn't a game I want to play. And I was like, this is stupid.
I want Animal Crossing.
I want a shooter. And so like first of all, the villagers I looked at, I'm like, this is horrifying and I don't want to play this.
They do have a very deep look into their eyes. Yep. It's like, and the thing that I hate is because now I would never, like, I want to be in the mindset where that sounds fun again, but I don't feel like going out and renting a game and then coming back and still having to take it back. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I've been spoiled by what we have, like where I can just download it or order it or whatever. Like ordering back then was such more big of a hassle.
Yeah.
And like it was very rare I actually ordered something, and if I did, it felt like Christmas. So like it's just crazy that now like I want that to be the thing, but I don't want to, like I wouldn't do it right now if like they were just like, we have a new game renting store. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do that. I would 100% just not do it and it would go out of business.
Yeah.
Like it'd have to be norm again for that to be a thing.
I think that's
but we already got spoiled.
Probably why
so
they
it's
get
a little too
struggle
late.
so hard. Like those stores, like it's a hard time to keep those kind of stores open, and that's probably
It's a hard
why.
time to keep a lot of retail stuff open. So it's crazy that like Best Buy and stuff is still in business because of how much you can order everything.
Yeah, I think Best Buy will always stay pretty relevant just because they have like refrigerators.
They do have Price Match too,
dishwashers.
to Amazon, which is big.
They have like
that's where most everyone orders,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, they have like TVs, dishwashers, refrigerators, and like I think they'll always have a place.
Yeah. GameStop's like on the edge of the cliff holding on to Scar's hand.
Yeah. Tell Scar not to do the long live the king.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. Yeah. I do like
I also go ahead.
I feel like the closest thing we have now, like instead of like going to rent movies or games, now we have like Netflix where you just browse through a menu and download it, or like now we have Game Pass. But like there's something so special to me about like looking on a shelf, picking it up, flipping it around, and be like, I wonder what this is.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is like you don't have, what am I trying to say? You don't have the, like on the game case, there's no like, nobody's telling you if it's good or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think reviews matter for like obviously for products and stuff. That's a whole different conversation. We need to do an episode on that. But like, it's just like all that aside, like bias to reviews, like there's nobody telling you like if this is a good product or a bad product. Like you look at it and you decide for yourself completely, like aside from like your friends, you know, that have played it.
Exactly.
If your friends haven't played it, you know nothing about this thing that's in your hand besides the pictures on it and the artwork.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you have to go off of.
Like
and
games,
you're just like this could be fun.
You flip them on the back and they're just like, this is a game about killing demons. It's super cool action.
Exactly.
I hope you have a great time.
It's usually just like 4 thumbnails on the back, a little description of the story, and then it tells you how many players, and then like maybe it'll say like, you know, GameSpot rated 10 out of whatever, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But like never was it set in stone, like if it was going to be a good game or not. You're just like, this could be fun. And I don't actually remember as a kid ever getting a game and hating it.
Yeah, I mean,
if I'm being honest,
the only time that ever happened to me, ironically enough, was Animal Crossing, and now it's one of my favorite games ever. So that's really weird.
I just like it, but I'm like Animal Crossing for me. I don't remember how old I was when we started playing it, but I played it with my sister and my mom.
Yeah.
So like I didn't even almost see it as a game. It was just like a daily thing we did. So it was almost like a ritualistic thing to just like chill with the family, watching a movie with the family. So I still don't know a lot about Animal Crossing. Like I was just like, fishing. I just kind of just did whatever that I already was obsessed with. So I don't know like much about it, but I do miss, like you said, just now you're like, well, I kind of want to play Red Dead 2, so you search it up, and then like you can see like what people said on Twitter about it. You can see like the Steam reviews about it, and all of that clouds your judgment of wanting to, and like, you know, it can be a good thing. You can avoid, like, since games now are so much more expensive, you can save yourself from spending $60 on a bad game.
For sure.
So like that is a good thing, especially with us being older. Like, it's not our parents paying for the games now, so we do have to take into account our own money. But I do miss when it was just like, you have pictures on a case and that's it. You buy it and you go home and you play it. That's your choice.
There's also such the like clickbaity culture that we live in, to where like a new game comes out and it's just plastered all over YouTube. Everything wrong with this game in 5 minutes, or like, is this game even worth the buy?
Advertisements for games either.
Like, yeah.
Like now you're like, Apex Legends is coming out. It's like, this is the biggest game of all time.
Legit, like
we're here to beat Fortnite.
I remember the past couple of movies I saw. Like, I remember, I think when we went to go see Endgame, like me, my mom, my sister, they literally played a trailer for Anthem before it. And then like the movie we saw before that, like they literally played a Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer before the movie. Like, not during the like motion picture previews, but like pre-preview thing.
When the lights are still on.
Yeah. And I'm like, they're playing game commercials in here. It's nuts. And speaking of Anthem, that game sucks.
I didn't even play it, and I was so excited for it. Got on Twitch release day. I was like,
if you guys,
I don't think this is what I wanted.
If you guys aren't aware, I'm like, I try and be super positive about games. I will find anything to love in a game. I'll defend a game that I don't think is that bad, that critics think is bad,
this goes for
my death.
A lot of things.
Yeah, movies,
Carl,
games,
not even just
music.
Games.
Yeah, I will defend
pretty much just art stuff in general.
I will defend anything I don't think is bad to the death. And Anthem, I will openly say, like, that game is one of the biggest disappointments I've ever had in my entire life. Like.
And like, imagine if you were just a kid, got that game on PS2 and just played it, you'd love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and I'm not saying this advertising flailing around.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, advertising does have a lot to do with it. Like, the biggest thing I saw with Anthem was they didn't get what they were promised, and you know, same with early release of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, and you know, like, that's something that really separates the experience for me from No Man's Sky. I remember years before it came out, there was just an interview where they're like, we heard you're working on a game called No Man's Sky. He's like, yeah, it's a game that's just meant to capture the spirit of sci-fi novels I read as a kid. I'm like, well, that sounds awesome. Literally never looked into anything else, basically, until the game came out. So I had no advertisement except what they played on the GameStop TV while I was working there. No expectations for the game whatsoever. I didn't even really know what it was all going to be like.
You had a PS2 moment.
Yeah, I had a PS2 moment. And now I would literally put that game in like my top 5 games of all time. And like, it's all about like, you know, it does reviews, advertisements, talk, chit chat, whatever clouds your judgment of things. Yeah.
And if you feel like some people might have liked it, saw that everybody hated it, and they got their judgment skewed a little bit. Like,
I saw that happen.
I got the game, and then like I played. I'm like, this is fun. I want to see what everybody else thinks. Gets online. This game sucks. Yeah, this game does suck, guys.
And it's
and
not
they
even
never played it again.
It's not even always that. It's not even just people following the crowd. But
oh yeah, I know.
It's I had one of my coworkers. Literally, he got Fallout 76, and he was like, "This game's fun. I really like it. I really like it, man. I'm having a great time with this game." And then he started watching YouTube videos on it, and he's like, you know, I didn't really think about it while I was playing it, but the more I watched those videos, the more it made me see what was wrong with the game. And it's like, if you hadn't watched those videos, you would have kept on enjoying it. Like, it's like not necessarily.
I don't like videos that point out the negativity. Yeah, if you want to give something a bad rating and you have a good reason for it, that's fine. I don't like when you make a whole video of, I don't know. It's just unnecessary negativity for something. It's not like a. Like, you know, you have an entire audience. Why give them that skewed view? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's a different topic. But
it's like
still, I get it.
It's like you go out feeling an outfit you put together and you're super stoked, and some person just points out, they're like, man, you know, those socks really don't match with the pants you're wearing. And you're like, You know,
You're like, oh, you're right. Runs back home and never goes outside.
Yeah,
again.
it's like, but before that, if you would have just kept going and that guy
thought
would
you
have never
looked
said
fly.
anything. Yeah. And like the confidence.
And I'm sure everyone else would have liked it.
Yeah.
But that one guy ruined it.
Yep, exactly.
So I totally understand. Like, even if, like, I don't know, a game, I mean, it's all taste for different people. And the biggest thing I saw about No Man's Sky was they didn't get what they were promised. That is the biggest thing I saw about it. So advertisement's a huge thing. You gotta be careful the way you advertise your game, because if you make it look like something and it's not that, goodbye to your sales and ratings.
Which is something I've really noticed. Like, every new update at No Man's Sky has done, they like will not tell anybody anything until like the week before it comes out. They're like, this is all that's in it. No mistake. This is what's in it. It's really funny.
I also miss, with the old games, the way people talked about them. Like, whenever I was a kid, like, you know, if I went to school, in like elementary school especially, we all just talked about our games and stuff. And like, I felt like there was this innocence of not hating on things. Exactly. And I know I was a kid too, so that makes a huge difference being a kid. But I do feel like now, especially with Twitter, I see it a lot. Because people feel like on Twitter, they can literally, it says speak your mind in the tweet, and they literally speak their mind anytime they feel like it. And whenever, like, for example, I haven't played Siege super recently, but I follow them on Twitter, and every single time they post a new, like, this week's bugs or this month's, you know, patches, whatever, like their update for their patch notes or whatever, I don't ever see a comment like, thank you. It's always like, the comments are always like, I can't believe you did this, or I can't believe you haven't fixed this yet. Like,
so they'll fix this, but not this. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, they're so self-entitled to the game they paid $30 for. Like, you didn't have to get it. Like, and it's a great game. I don't know. Like, I just miss when that wasn't a thing. I hate how, like, and I'm guilty. I'm 100% guilty of it. I know I've done it. I'm just like, well, Ubisoft hasn't done this, or well, blah blah blah, whatever game company I'm playing hasn't done this. Like,
Fortnite still hasn't fixed the shotguns.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, it's a free game, and I don't know. Like, I know people care about the games they play, and you know, I respect them being passionate about it, but like, developers have to see that and be like, bruh, I've been working sleeplessly to fix these things, and when we post it, this is how people respond.
I remember the now former president of like Nintendo of America,
the United States,
Reggie Fils-Aimé. They kept announcing new things at like Nintendo Direct, and people were just like violently protesting on Twitter, like, where's Animal Crossing? Where's Animal Crossing? Where's Animal Crossing? And then like he just came out in a tweet. He's like, just so everybody is very clear, we hear you. We know you want Animal Crossing. I'm not confirming anything either way, but I just wanted to let you guys know that your concerns have been heard. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's like, he's like, we hear you.
Kindness.
Be quiet.
It's like, we have heard you the first 5,000 times. Shut up before I lose it and don't make it.
It's literally what it felt like.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't know. It's just, the internet has given everybody this self-titled, like, I don't know. It's crazy how people think that since they bought a game, they deserve
people
everything.
Think like now they're like, people should be creating things for me. They're like, we're the ones who got you where you are. You would be nowhere if you didn't buy and enjoy your product. It's like, dude, they just wanted to make a thing that they cared about because they cared about it. You just happen to like it as well and buy it. Like, that's one thing. Like, and
I understand now, like, it's different with multiplayer. I probably should exclude multiplayer games from it, to be honest.
I agree, because multiplayer
companies now very, like, they do rush those, and I agree that they can be very, like, 50% done just because they wanted to get them, like, you know, Call of Duty now is just like, oh, new game, money, gimme, you know, just because it's a franchise that sells. And every game, like, you know, games from Call of Duty have sucked for a while now. And that's, like, a fact. They're just not good. I mean, that's another big thing about retro versus now is, like, they didn't used to have to sell on multiplayer.
Yeah.
So we got so much more varieties of games, and that's why like platformers and, you know, adventurous games were a huge thing as a kid, just because you didn't have to sell to this mass market of, you know, people losing their minds over new multiplayer games. Because that's like all the rave now. I don't know a lot of people, like the people I know personally, like close friends, obviously love story games, but multiplayer is of the rave. So
yeah,
that's what companies aim towards the most.
For sure. Well, we have been going for a good bit, and I think this seems like a good topic to end everything on. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Nope. I had a couple things typed out, but we either already talked about it or kind of skimmed over it, and it would be awkward to bring up now, and it wasn't that important anyway. So I think it's a good time.
Well, Logan, before we end the podcast, why don't you plug anything you might want to plug?
Yo, go to my SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/McMcDonald. Don't actually do that. That's probably a real thing, and it's not me, so don't do it. But if you want, I have been doing YouTube, so I'm also about to start doing Let's Plays. If you want to go check those out in the next week or so, it's youtube.com/ElBee Gaming, and I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/ElBee Gaming as well. So that's it. It's only 2 I got right now. I'm not really worrying about Instagram or anything else. So try to plan on getting started with YouTube here again soon. I know I did some funny moment stuff, but I kind of want to get back into it. So you can go check those out if you want.
Hooray! Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And you'll probably be back on a good bit of these podcast episodes as well. So definitely stay tuned for those upcoming episodes. But that's about all we have for this week. So we'll see you next week when we talk about who knows what. Thanks for
weed.
Yeah, we'll talk about weed.
Okay. I hope so, or I won't be here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hello. Wait, no, don't hello.
Wait.
Dang.